requests of our sponsor. Goodness is our nature. Purity is our nature. Divine is our nature. And that nature can never be destroyed. So for this homework, I went to Srimad Bhagavatam. And we just celebrated Nrsimha's appearance. So Nrsimha and Prahlad is very current in my consciousness. So I remembered this verse of Prahlad. Prahlad was speaking to his class friends. His class friends wanted to know how that he knew so much about Krishna consciousness, because as far as they knew, he was just one of the schoolboys. So Prahlad explained how Narada Muni preached to him when Prahlad was in the womb of his mother. And they wanted to know what Prahlad learned. So he was explaining to his classmates, just as the fruits and flowers of a tree in due course of time undergo 6 changes: birth, existence, growth, transformation, dwindling, and then death. The material body, which is obtained by the spirit soul under different circumstances, undergoes similar changes. However, there are no such changes for the spirit soul. So Prahlad, in his preaching to his classmates, starts the same way that Krishna does. Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita begin with the difference between the temporary body and the eternal soul, the difference between matter and spirit. So Prahlad also begins by informing his classmates the difference between the body and the soul. Then he says, Atma, the word Atma, refers both to the Supreme Lord and the living entities. Both of them are spiritual, free from birth and death, free from deterioration, and free from material contamination. They are individual. They are the knowers of the body. They are the foundation and shelter of everything. They are free from material change. They are self-illuminated. They are the cause of all causes. And they are all-pervading. And they have nothing to do with the material body. And therefore they are always uncovered. With these transcendental qualities, one who is actually learned must give up the illusory conception of life in which one thinks, I am this material body and everything in relationship with this body is mine. Same exact beginning instructions Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita. Prahlad does the same thing. In the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Vidura is having a conversation with the great sage Maitreya. At one point, Vidura says, the pure soul is pure consciousness and is never out of such consciousness, either due to circumstance, time, situation, dream, or other causes. But then, how does the pure soul become engaged in nescience? And the answer Maitreya gives is that although this is all true, we identify with the material world and with our material body and mind. It's simply a question of identification. That's what the whole trick of Maya is. We are identifying. I am this body. I am American. I am this, that. It's only because I'm identifying. But my real reality is something different. So the only reason that we are undergoing material existence is simply because of the mind identifying with the illusory temporary nature. That's why Lord Chaitanya's first instruction, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, cleanse this material consciousness. Give up identifying with the body, mind, and the material world, and see yourself as eternal servant of God. That's liberation. When you come to the point where you understand, I am not this material body, I'm not my mind, I am the eternal servant of God, that is your liberated state. And then you have to act like that. And the way you act like that is by performing devotional activities. What you're doing right now, hearing, this is the first devotional activity. Actually, you should be doing this every day. Every day you should be hearing the science of God, the holy name of God. There's another verse. Lord Brahma was once praying to Krishna, "O my Lord, the material miseries are without factual existence for the soul. Yet, as long as the conditioned soul sees the body as meant for sense enjoyment, the conditioned soul cannot get out of the entanglement of material miseries, being influenced by your external energy." So that's the same answer I just explained. It's only because I'm identifying with this material world and I see myself as an independent, separate enjoyer. That's another definition of Maya. To think that there is some position of enjoyment separate from surrendering to Krishna. That's Maya. When you are in Krishna consciousness, then you realize, if I want to enjoy, I have to dovetail with Krishna. I have to serve Krishna. My hand is meant to serve me. It's not meant to act independently. It's meant to do according to my dictation. So a surrendered soul is the same way. Voluntarily submits to Krishna, like Prabhupada on his poem, when he wrote that poem in Boston Harbor in 1965. "I am now your puppet. You please make me dance, make me dance, make me dance as you like." That is full surrender. Voluntarily agreeing to act by the dictation of Krishna. That's a pure devotee. More on this topic. Lord Kapila, he's also Vishnu. He's a Leela avatar. So he was speaking to his mother, Devahuti. He says, material consciousness is the cause of one's conditional life, in which conditions are enforced upon the living entity by the material energy. Although the spirit soul does not do anything and is actually transcendental to such activities, the spirit soul is thus affected by conditional life. Again, it's only because we identify. For instance, I'll give you a practical example. You go to the movies or you watch a show on the television, and you might get so absorbed in the movie or television show that you think it's real. And so when there's an exciting part, you might, oh, but it's just a movie. It's not real. So in the same way, this whole material world is no different than the movie. It's only because we are identifying. That's it. And Krishna consciousness means stop identifying with this material world. start to identify with Krishna. In another verse, Lord Vishnu was speaking, and he said, the individual soul is one, pure, non-material, and self-effulgent. The individual soul is the reservoir of all good qualities. And the individual soul, you can find souls everywhere. In that sense, the soul is all-pervading. Not that I'm all-pervading. No, Krishna is all-pervading, but souls are everywhere. So in that sense, the soul is all-pervading. Everywhere you go, there are souls. The individual soul is without material covering, and the individual soul is the witness of all activities. The individual soul is completely distinguished from other individual souls. Yes, I'm an individual, you're an individual. We're not the same. We are eternally individual persons. Perhaps you've heard me say many times, get used to yourself. You're not going anywhere. You are eternally going to be you. If you don't like the you, then change that by adopting Krishna consciousness and become the best you that you possibly can become. But you are always going to be an individual person. A few weeks back, when we started these programs, Rambai requested a class on the prayers of the personified Vedas. So one of their verses also answers the question. The personified Vedas prayed, supposed authorities who declare that matter is the origin of existence. So that's your material scientists. That's where they come from. Supposed authorities who declare that matter is the origin of existence, that the permanent qualities of the soul can be destroyed, that the self is compounded of separate aspects of spirit and matter, or that material transactions constitute reality, all such authorities base their teachings on mistaken ideas that hide the truth. The dualistic conception that living entity is produced from the three modes of nature is simply a product of ignorance. Such a conception has no real basis, for you, O Lord, are transcendental to all illusion and always enjoy perfect, total awareness. Then, one of the Nava Yogendras was answering the questions of King Nimi. So he said, the eternal soul was never born and will never die. Sounds very familiar. What book, you all should know, says the same thing? The eternal soul was never born and will never die. If your answer is Bhagavad Gita, you are correct. Nor does the eternal soul grow or decay. In the Gita, it says the soul is changeless. There is no growth or birth for the soul. So there's no growth or decay. The spirit soul is actually the knower of youth, middle age, and death. Yes, we are going to experience these things. Thus, the soul can be understood to be pure consciousness, existing everywhere at all times and never destroyed. Just as the life air within the body, although one, becomes manifest as many in contact with the various material senses, the one soul appears to assume various material designations in contact with the material body. Then, we have the teachings of Krishna to Uddhava in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So one of these statements is by Krishna. Although the mighty wind blows clouds and storms across the sky itself is never implicated or affected by these activities. Similarly, the soul itself is not actually changed or affected by contact with material nature. Although the living entity enters within a body made of earth, water, and fire, and although the spirit soul is impelled by the three modes of nature, which is created by eternal time, the spirit soul's eternal spiritual nature is never actually affected. And then we have these are the remaining statements now are by Krishna to Uddhava. We have two more. The various phases of one's material life, beginning with birth and culminating in death, are all properties of the body and do not affect the soul. Just as the apparent waxing and waning of the moon does not affect the moon itself. This example by Krishna is perfect. We see the moon as going through its phases of waxing and waning. But on the moon, there's no such change. It's only because of where we are, we see the changes of the moon. So in the same way, we are going through all these different changes in material life, but it's just like the waxing and waning of the moon. It's not real. It looks real, it appears real, it feels real, but it's not. Such changes are enforced by the imperceptible movements of time. And lastly, the spirit soul is inexhaustible, transcendental, pure, self-luminous, and never actually covered by anything material. It is like fire, but the non-living material body, like firewood, is dull and unaware. So in this world, who is it that actually undergoes the experience of material life? The answer is only the person who identifies. So the whole point of Krishna consciousness is to no longer identify with the temporary material world, but to identify with Krishna.